If you started Vampire's Bloodlord Rising thinking it was just about leveling up and biting everyone, I'm gonna save you a lot of grief. Today, I'm bringing you 10 advanced tips you need to know. This isn't a basic tutorial. It's not press X to attack. These are tricks and strategy adjustments that change your progression pace, make your fights more consistent, and help you evolve much faster without relying on luck. I'm Matthew, and the video starts now. Treat minions as an extension of your own character. If you play right with them, the castle becomes a machine that works while you do what really matters. The trick is understanding that every vampire minion levels up their skills just like you do by repeating specific actions. So it's not about sending them to do whatever, it's about training with purpose. The way I think about it is simple. If I leave an explorer stuck on a random task, I'm literally wasting XP that could be turning into efficiency. When I place a minion at a station or activity that matches their specialty, I feel the game unlock. Gathering happens faster, materials are rarely missing, and I spend less time on resource runs and more time exploring and fighting. So the practical tip is, look at your current needs, missing wood, stone, crafted items, and set up a training cycle that prioritizes the team's level up, not just immediate delivery. A hunter evolving by doing what a hunter does, a guardian taking on heavier tasks, an artisan rotating production. Suddenly, you realize the bottleneck wasn't the map, it was your poorly trained production line. And the best part is that it creates that satisfying feeling of layered progression. You level up, but your empire levels up right alongside you. When you start assigning tasks with evolution in mind rather than just filling holes, your production and gathering efficiency moves to another level, and that's when vampires. Bloodlord Rising starts feeling like a true vampire domain management game. If you want to unlock the map earlier, I'd go straight for what gives structural returns, blood vessels. They increase the core's capacity, which in practice means more regions open sooner without being held hostage by farming pure blood until your patience runs out. I like this tip because it changes how you view progression. It's not just about adding resources, it's about investing in your engine. The core is literally the system that pushes the Silver Veil back and unlocks new areas, so any upgrade to it has a domino effect on your game pace. And here's the detail many people miss. You can find blood vessels in Hell's Chasm, which acts as a legitimate shortcut to expansion. While some players are still in accountant mode, gathering pure blood to hit goals like 500 right at the start, you're already optimizing the core's limit and clearing the path. My mental roadmap is, if I want to explore and grow fast, I prioritize increasing the ceiling before increasing the stock. Pure blood will always be important, but when you raise the core's capacity first, every trip back to base becomes real progress, and the game stops feeling like a to-do list and starts feeling like a vampire domain growing the right way. Hell's Chasm roof tiles are the kind of detail that, if ignored, results in the game punishing you in the most annoying way possible. You set up your beautiful castle, and during the day, it becomes practically an ornament. For me, this is checklist item number 1 as soon as I pass the first region, because without roof tiles, you get stuck exactly during the hours when you'd want to organize your base, craft, and get everything sorted. Here, it's not about aesthetics, it's about functionality. I remember the first time I realized this. I was on a roll, gathering, building rooms, thinking, here we go, and suddenly the game hits me with a cold reality without a proper roof. The base doesn't serve its purpose during the day, and you start planning your routine around a limitation that didn't even need to exist. So, the tip I'll give you as directly as possible is treat Hell's Chasm as a priority right after the first expansion. It's not just another region to explore whenever, it's the region that unlocks a normal castle owner's life. The one where you actually use the base as an operations center rather than a place you rush through only when the sun allows. The result is much more than comfort, it's rhythm. When you unlock roof tiles early, you stop wasting time playing against the clock and start playing in favor of your planning you can. Return, organize production, adjust minions, tweak buildings, and head out again, feeling like your castle is finally complete. Before you go around converting any villager that crosses your path, I've learned to do something that completely changes the efficiency of your minion army. Discover their traits beforehand. You can talk to villagers in aristocrat mode and pick up rumors that reveal traits when you hover your mouse over them. And this is gold because it saves you from wasting time and resources on a convert that will be just okay. I like to think of this as hiring someone for a specific role. You don't just grab the first person on the street and hope for the best. When you investigate first, you start noticing that some villagers have combinations that fit perfectly with what you need. Production, gathering, combat, support, and others simply aren't worth the bite. The difference is that in the early game, a good minion isn't just a bonus, it's what keeps your base running while you're out there doing the dirty work. In practice, I do this. Enter aristocrat mode, talk, get the rumor, and hover over targets calmly, as if I'm building a team. If the trait is useful for the type of minion I want, then I convert. If not, I let them pass without remorse. It's the kind of discipline that feels tedious for 2 minutes, but saves you hours later. And there's a very satisfying side to this. When you only convert the right villagers, your minion line becomes truly optimized. You stop having a bunch of mediocre servants taking up space and start having a few high-quality pieces, each with a clear function. And that's when the game starts to flow, because your castle stops being a place where everything takes forever and becomes a base that works for you. This tip is a click that changes how you organize your empire. A minion isn't a magic drone that farms the whole map. They only gather resources from the area where they live. So, if you drop a vampire over in Castle Hill and send them to fetch something that only exists in abundance in Hell's Chasm, you're basically wasting a task and wondering why production isn't moving. The way I solved this was by thinking in regional teams as if each area were a branch of my castle. I separate those living in Castle Hill to keep the basics running, local gathering and production, and those living in Hell's Chasm to bring back materials from that tougher reality. When you make this division, everything suddenly becomes predictable. You know what each group can deliver and stop relying on trial and error. And the most important detail, which seems small but isn't, before sending minions to gather, I make sure to discover the nodes first. In practice, I explore, mentally mark where the strong points for each resource are, and only then start distributing tasks, because sending a servant into the dark is the fastest way to waste entire work cycles. This tip is about stopping treating minions as generic labor and starting to treat them as logistics. Assigning vampires by region, like Castle Hill versus Hell's Chasm, and ensuring you've revealed the right nodes transforms gathering into an efficient system, and when gathering is efficient, the rest of the game unlocks with it. Crafting, building, upgrades, and even your exploration trips become more fluid. If there's one thing I wish I'd taken seriously sooner, it's this infrastructure before ambition mentality. 1 station per minion and chests scattered the right way. It seems like overkill at first, but it's exactly what separates a castle that runs itself from a castle that gives you constant work. In practice, every vampire minion needs their own crafting station, so they don't block the queue and waste precious time. I've made the mistake of thinking they can share, and, well, you realize that when everyone depends on the same station, productivity drops and you get the feeling that minions are slow, when in reality, the bottleneck is your layout. And then comes the detail that irritates you most when you find out the hard way. Without chests, they simply stop working. It's not drama, it's a system. If they have nowhere to store or take what they need, the loop breaks and you come back to base thinking everything will be ready, only to find production stalled and resources missing. So my advice is plan storage early as if it were part of your survival kit. I like to set up a very simple logic, dedicated station plus nearby chest, and if possible, separated by material type, because this avoids micromanagement and keeps the minions running without you having to babysit the castle. This tip is liberating. You can deconstruct structures and recover 100% of the resources, so you don't have to fear getting the castle layout wrong. The game practically encourages you to experiment, because reorganizing doesn't become a punishment, it becomes a natural part of the base's growth. The control trick is simple, and I use it all the time. When that urge to make this beautiful and efficient hits, middle mouse plus Q to enter edit mode and demolish. From there, you can dismantle walls, stations, decorations, whatever, and reuse everything without the pain of wasting materials. The real impact of this appears as you evolve and realize your initial base was temporary. Suddenly you unlock new things, change the minion's workflow, need more space, or want to move stations closer to chests. And instead of suffering, you just dismantle and rebuild like a vampire architect in total control. I always say, use this as a routine, not a plan B. Built it, tested it, felt it was bad, tear it down and redo it without guilt. Because that's exactly how you find the layout that makes your crafting fast, your gathering fast, and your castle running your way. This is one of those tips that really flips the switch once your castle starts growing. Duplicate stations and separate automatic production from personal crafting. I like to think that thralls should keep the basics moving without interrupting me, while I keep a VIP set just for when I need to make that specific item right now my way, without a queue and without a headache. The classic mistake is letting everyone use the same set of stations. You arrive at the base wanting to craft something quickly, but everything is busy because the thralls are cooking, refining, sawing, smelting, and you're just standing there staring at nothing. When you duplicate, you create two lanes, a continuous production line that runs on its own and an express line for you, which is where the game gets fun, because your decision making doesn't turn into waiting. In practice, I organize it like a factory. One side is dirty work, thralls making base materials, intermediate resources, restocking what's always missing, and the other side is my workbench, crafts depending on what I want to equip, build, or test at that moment. Automating the basics this way reduces traffic jams and makes your gameplay loop much cleaner. You come back, grab what you need, click what you want, and head out again. And there's a huge psychological bonus. When you do this, your castle stops being a place that slows you down and becomes a place that propels you forward. Thralls working in the background, your VIP station's free, and you always with a sense of control because you're not fighting your own logistics, you're using them to your advantage. This tip sounds like witchcraft when you first discover it, but later it becomes a habit. You unlock recipes by vampire osmosis, just by holding all the ingredients in your inventory at the same time. I love this because it's the game rewarding you for curiosity and being prepared, instead of forcing you to hunt through menus, NPCs, or specific workbenches just to figure out what can be made. The way I apply it is very direct. Whenever I return from an exploration, I don't go spending materials right away. I gather everything and have an inventory moment. I keep the key ingredients with me all at once and wait for the game to light that, hey, you can create this bulb, because many recipes appear exactly when you prove you have the full set right there in your backpack. And yes, this is where it goes against many people's instincts. Hoarding resources isn't a mess, it's a strategy. I do an intentional hoard. It's not accumulating for the sake of it. It's accumulating with combinations in mind, a little bit of everything, rather than a lot of just one thing. This speeds up, unlocks, avoids that I had half the recipe but didn't even know it feeling, and still gives you options when you decide to change focus out of nowhere. Instead of placing every piece by hand and stalling your run every time a material is missing, I start planning constructions in build mode and let the castle grow at its own pace. The trick is, when you plan, You turn the project into a living to-do list. Your minions will build automatically as resources arrive. So that expansion you wanted, a new hallway, a production room, a storage area starts happening behind the scenes while you're out exploring and restocking. For me, this completely changes the pace of the game because I stop stopping the game to build. I design what I want the right way with space, flow, and logic, and then I just feed the machine. I return with wood, stone, whatever, and watch the parts getting finished without being stuck at the base clicking everything. And the best part is that it fits with the progression mentality. You don't need to have all the resources before you start dreaming big. Plan first, leave the project marked, and then every trip becomes real progress. Because you're not farming into a void, you're bringing material that automatically turns into walls, stations, and rooms, as if your minions were the construction crew of your vampire domain.